Hey everyone, Eric here, and I know what you're thinking already. Whoa, this is kind of confusing. We have multiple videos of Eric on the screen. What is going on here? So what I'm going to try to show you today is how Pear Deck would look for your students and some differences of whether you are using your Pear Deck virtually or if you're using it in a hybrid situation or face-to-face. It just has some slight differences. So up here in this corner, this window is my Zoom meeting. Okay, so you can see there's me and there's my student. Over here in this corner, this is the student view. So this is my iPad, and the student has joined my Zoom meeting. Then down here, this is my Pear Deck, and I'm ready to get it started. One thing I would tell you is to go ahead and launch your Pear Deck before your class starts. Because what that's going to allow you to do is, now that I've already launched that, I can grab that link beforehand. Okay, because you're going to give your students a link to join this. So I can just click on that and copy that link. And now I've started my Zoom meeting. I start out however I usually do. Now I go into the chat. And I can put a new Pear Deck. And then I can put that link right in here. There we go. And now you can see on the student device, it has that link show right up there. And now they're set to go. So here's my student. They're going to tap on chat and go to that link. And it's going to prompt them to log in to their Google account, and then off they go. And I think actually I already tried this one time, so it bypassed that, but just know it will ask your students to log in. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and start class here. Okay, so you can see now my students are seeing that Pear Deck. They don't see my Zoom meeting anymore, but they can still hear me. It's still open in the background. Now, this is the one that gets a little confusing for folks. So this screen right down here, this is the shared screen. So in person, this is what you would have up on your smartboard or up on your projector. So in person or face-to-face, this is the way that you can share student responses with everyone. Okay, and they're all anonymous, but it'll show all those student responses in one place, and then you can start discussions from there. One thing about virtual is you'll notice that students don't see that screen. And I'll show you how to show that to them in just a minute. But first, let's talk about one more window. I know we're going to open another one here. And that is the teacher dashboard. So it did ask me this right when I started, and I didn't click on it, but I'm going to do it now. So there's two different dashboards that you can use. The first one is open a dashboard in a new window. So what this is going to do is it's going to give you that teacher dashboard in a secondary window. So this is where I control my slide deck. This is where I can see student responses and all that kind of thing. Okay? This is the most important one for you when you're going to be running this meeting. So if you don't feel like you need this at all, you can just minimize it and get rid of it. So you just have the Zoom meeting open and you have this screen here for student responses. Okay. One other trick you can do when you're talking about having this separate presentation session is, instead of opening up in a new window, you can choose Open Dashboard in a New Device. This is really neat. What this allows you to do is it allows you on your iPad or on a separate laptop to tap this into Safari, go to this website, and then you put in the meeting identification or the meeting code, and then it'll allow you to run the presentation from your iPad instead of having multiple windows open on your screen. So this would be helpful if you're full virtual. It'll be helpful to maybe have your laptop that has the actual presentation in your Zoom meeting, and then your iPad, which has this kind of control pad where you are responding to students and things like that. It's also really useful if your students are in the classroom or hybrid, and let's say that you have this screen right here is up on your projector, right? Then you can have this on your iPad so that they're only seeing the shared presentation and not all those student responses. So let's say I'm getting into this and my students are responding. What do you know about mammals? They have fur. Okay, there we go. I'm seeing the responses come in from students. I can also respond to them by clicking on that little button there. Great. I can leave that feedback there too. Okay. Now, let's say that I want to share these responses with everyone. So from the teacher view, I could of course just talk about them. Oh, I see some here, guys. They have fur. They have warm blood. But what if I wanted to show some responses to my students? That's this one right here called Show Response. Now, when I click on that, notice it starts showing those student responses up here. But over here on my student view, because we're fully virtual, they don't see that. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple tricks here if your students are virtual and you want them to see this shared view. So, and this is, I think they call it the presentation view is what the official name of it is. So if I wanted the students to see this, then I would have to use Zoom to share my screen and share that with them. So even if I had multiple windows open, I would click Share Screen. Then I would choose that presentation session. You can see it right there. Okay, so now I'm sharing that with my students. Notice they still don't see it though, right? That's because they're not in Zoom. So they could go back to their Zoom meeting, and now they can see those shared responses, okay? Or they could use split screen. And for this, they're gonna take their finger and drag up. Then they're gonna take the Zoom app, drag it to the middle and the right, and let go. Now they can see both screens at once. So they can see shared responses and they can see your Pear Deck. They can even grab this little gray bar in the middle and drag it to make one side smaller or larger. Okay, so that would be a way that you could do both. Again, this is only if you're trying to do these shared responses and you really want students to see them. Okay, so I'm going to stop my share. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to click Hide Responses, and now we're just back to just rolling through the slides. Okay. Now, if students were in person or you're in hybrid, this would be the part you would put on your projector, right? And then you do the same thing. You would click Share Screen so that students in the class and students at home would both see this up on the board or on their Zoom meetings. So let's talk about a couple other things you can do if you're in a hybrid situation. So another thing that might be helpful is right down here, these three dots again, is student paced. So one of the reasons that we were really looking at Pear Deck is because of the flexibility. Whether you're face-to-face, full virtual, hybrid, it works pretty well for all those scenarios. One thing you could think about doing would be to turn on student paced. And when you turn on student paced, that will allow the students at home to go on potentially all on their own. So if you don't want to have to keep them all with you and your students in class, you could let them go on student paced. And then your students in class would also be in student paced, but that's okay. They are just following along with you as you go, and all their responses are still in one spot. So that's one thing to think about. The other thing you could do would be to start two separate sessions. So back from the Pear Deck, when I started my sessions, I could start one lesson as student paced and one as instructor paced, which would allow me to have my students at home going on their own and my students in class following along with me. The only negative of that is their responses are going to be in two different sessions. So I think it's easiest just to do a student-paced session and let everybody be student-paced. Okay. All right. So I know that's a lot to wrap your brains around. Hopefully it wasn't too much for you. But of course, I'm there to help out. So if you want to try this with your students, but you're a little nervous about that first or second time of trying it, just reach out to me. I'm happy to be in there for your meeting with you and try this out until you get a little more comfortable with it. All right. Thank you for watching.